In the land between two rivers, where the Tigris and Euphrates caress the earth like divine serpents, there once lived the oldest gods, born of silence, dust, and breath. Among them shone Inanna, Lady of Heaven, Queen of all powers. Radiant like the moon, fierce like the storm, and fertile like the flood, she who walked among mortals and deities alike. A goddess not of one realm, but of love, and of war, of beauty and of justice. Her throne stood in Uruk, carved of lapis lazuli and gold, and her temples rose like mountains on plains of baked clay. But no glory comes without its shadow, and no goddess rules without facing the depths. This is the tale of her descent, the underworld, into death itself, not as a fall, but as a pilgrimage, a divine unraveling, a passage through mystery, where the soul is broken, reborn, and crowned anew. Inanna, majestic and restless, cast her gaze downward toward the great below. The underworld, ruled by her dark sister, Ereshkigal, Queen of Silence, and dust beckoned her. None ascended from that realm, none dared challenge its gates. Yet Inanna, sovereign of the heavens, felt the pull of the unseen. What drove her to descend? Some say ambition, desire to conquer all realms. Others whisper of sacrifice for knowledge, for transformation, or perhaps for love. But deeper still was the longing to understand death, to touch it, to pass through it and return. Not as Inanna the glorious, but as Inanna the eternal. She adorned herself for the journey, not with sorrow, but with splendor. Her crown gleamed with starlight, her breastplate shimmered with storm. Around her neck hung the lapis necklace of destiny. She wore her robes of power, her golden rings, her scepter, the symbols of all she was, dressed like the sunrise. She approached the gates of the underworld. Ereshkigal's domain was sealed by 7 gates, each guarded by the laws of death, unyielding. An ancient Neti, the gatekeeper, stood watch, stoned and solemn. Inanna knocked, and the sound echoed across dimensions. "Who comes?" asked Neti. "I am Inanna," came the answer, "Queen of Heaven, bearer of storms. I come to witness the funeral rites of Gugalana, consort of Ereshkigal." But that was only half-truth, for Inanna did not only come to witness, she came to challenge, to transform, to descend not as visitor, but as sacrifice. Neti sent word to Ereshkigal, "Your sister stands at the gate." And the queen of the dead, swollen with grief and flame, replied, "Let her come, stripped of pride." Thus, at each gate, a part of Inanna's power was taken. At the first gate, her crown was removed. At the second, her scepter. At the third, her necklace, then her breastplate, then her rings, her robes. And at the 7th gate, she stood naked. Each gate peeled back a layer of her divinity. Each passage was a ritual death. By the time she reached the throne of Ereshkigal, she was not queen, not warrior, not even goddess. She was simply Inanna. Bare soul, Ereshkigal sat upon her throne like a moon eclipsed, cold, writhing with sorrow and shadow. She looked upon Inanna and saw not a sister, but a rival, a trespasser. Inanna, silent, stood before her. A breathless moment passed, then judgment fell like a sword. With a cry, Ereshkigal spoke the word of death. The gaze of the underworld fixed upon Inanna, and she died. Not metaphor, not illusion. The Queen of Heaven was turned into a corpse. Her body hung on a hook like meat, forgotten by time. Lost to light. Above, the world grew barren, crops failed, lovers wept, justice vanished. For when Inanna descended, the pulse of life faltered. Without the goddess of love, war, and balance, turned to ruin. 3 days and 3 nights passed. Inanna's handmaiden, faithful Ninshuber, raised the alarm. She howled at the heavens, tore her clothes, and journeyed to the gods of wisdom, pleading for help. To Enki, the god of waters and secrets, she came, and Enki, moved by compassion, crafted to beings from the clay under his fingernails, neither male nor female, beings of twilight and echo. They were sent to the underworld, not with weapons, but with empathy. They found Ereshkigal in agony, howling with labor pains, not literal birth, but the spiritual agony of transformation. The clay beings did not judge. They did not fear. They listened. They echoed her cries, and in that mirror of pain, Ereshkigal softened. She offered them a boon. They asked for the corpse of Inanna. It was given, and with sacred waters and the food of life, Inanna was revived. But even resurrection has a price. No soul returns from the underworld without sending another in its place. This is the law. Ancient, immutable, Inanna ascended. But behind her marched demons. The Galahu demanded a substitute. They followed her to the surface, to her temples, to her servants. Each time, Inanna refused to offer one who mourned her, who had been loyal. But when she came upon Dumuzi, her consort, her beloved, he sat on her throne, dressed in finery, untouched by grief. While the world had wept, he had not. He had thrived in her absence. Inanna's gaze burned with divine judgment. She pointed, "Take him." And Dumuzi, son of the shepherds, was dragged toward the shadows. Yet even this punishment found mercy. Dumuzi's sister, Geshtinanna, offered to share his fate. Half the year she would dwell in darkness, half the year he would. Thus was born the cycle, the turning of seasons, the rhythm of life and death. Inanna's descent became a cosmic law, a myth not of cruelty, but of return. Each year she reminds the world, death is not the end. Love can fall, power can vanish, but the soul, when stripped bare, can rise again. What is Inanna's descent but our own? Each of us must pass through gates of grief, of humility, of loss. We descend into sorrow. We are stripped of identity, pride, certainty. At the lowest point, we are no longer who we were, but like Inanna, we rise, transformed, wiser, sovereign, of a kingdom not of conquest, but of truth. Inanna's journey is not simply a tale of gods, but a mirror of the soul's alchemy. Love leads to loss. Death births resurrection. Power is not held, but surrendered. And from surrender true power awakens now. When the stars gleam over the ruins of Uruk, and the wind dances over ziggurats and tombs, the story of Inanna is whispered by sand and moonlight. She who dared descend, she who met her shadow, she who returned, Queen of heaven, Queen of the great below, and within her journey all life finds its rhythm.